Hey folks, here we are again, and we're continuing our witchy theme for ShamanTalk. And today I'm rather delighted, I have to say, to be joined by Judika Illes. So many of you may know her as the author of various encyclopedias, the Encyclopedia of 5,000 Spells and the Encyclopedia of Witchcraft and all kinds of things, Daily Magic and loads of other books. Like, you know, Judika's just one of the elders of the craft, I think. She's a writer, a teacher, and a practitioner who just has brought through in her lifetime this magical wealth of knowledge that she just offers to countless people. And it's really an honour to have you here, Judika. And we are also working together at the Gathering of the Witches this year. So I'm trying to really reach out to the people that are moving into that container with me so that we can, get to know each other a little better, and also to let people know what it is that we're trying to achieve and why we do the things that we do together. Mm-hmm. So very, very delighted to have you here, Judika. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here. Thank you for having me.
You're so welcome.
And for your very kind
words. One of the things that I always like to ask people, and you've probably told your story a million times, but for anybody who doesn't know, what's your origin story?
Like, what makes origin you? Story. You know, I am asked that all the time, and I fear I don't have the answer they want. They want a dramatic, it's like St. Paul having the vision, but I was just sort of born like this. I am a child in a family of adults. My only sibling is 12 years older than I am. And I had a parent, my family, the nuclear family, my mother, my sister, I wouldn't say they were practitioners, but they were interested. And my mother I was born in America to parents who had just come from Hungary. And my mother taught herself English by teaching me how to read. And I was a very young and precocious reader. And they let me read whatever was in the house. No one explained anything to me. I read The Godfather, and no one explained anything to me, but no one took it out of my hands either. And we had my sister. So when I was starting first grade, my sister was starting college. She went to Cooper Union, which is an art and engineering school in New York City. And at that time, it was around the corner from the old Weiser bookstore, Samuel Weiser bookstore. And on her way home from school, she would buy books. She would, tarot cards. And she would come home with treasure. And I stole everything. I mugged her. I waited by the door and I mugged her. And, I mean, that's a simple story. And I guess the more complex story is, why does a 6-year-old want to read an astrology book? But I did. This has just been, I have always identified with witches. And maybe my mother did too, because we read a lot of fairy tales. My Encyclopedia of Witchcraft has a big section on fairy tales and fairy tale witches. And, there's a lot of coded shamanic information in fairy tales. Once you have the eye to see it, to hear it, then it's there for you. And I always identified with the witch. I remember just being so horrified at the Wizard of Oz movie, which, at that time was on once a year and you had to watch it. It was a spectacle. And I interpreted it even as a child. It's a movie about killing witches. And I thought it was horrifying, just horrifying. So, Hansel and Gretel, I find an upsetting story. And I write about these things, not because of the children, those rude children eating that woman's house. Who ends up dead? It's not the children, it's the witch. So if you really are listening to that story, you will hear these details. I like the stories where the witches are proud and defiant and powerful and they win. But, and I have just been doing it ever since. It started off as a very personal interest for me. And when I was a teenager and in my 20s, and it was maybe both a better and a worse time in New York City. There were small stores. People could afford to keep small stores open. There were some wonderful witch stores, and there were practitioners, and I gravitated to that. So I've just been doing it ever since. And at some point, long story short, I wrote a book, and I didn't think anybody would read it, so I used my real name, which, it never occurred to me not to use my real name. And so, I found myself out of the broom closet, and here I am.
That's fascinating. I was listening to Lisa Marciano, her name is. She's a Jungian analyst, and she was talking about how today we water down fairy tales for children, and it's actually probably like not doing them a favour. So
No.
I have a 4-year-old, and we do the Grimm's tales, and we do all the fairy tales as they were, and some of them are quite scary, and she loves it. Like, she gets so much out of it. Like, the archetypal nature seems to really touch her wee soul in a way that I have 2 kids. My older kid is 24. So when I was bringing up Eve, like, I did do that. I was very young myself, so I didn't really know
Yeah.
any better. And I did do all the watering down and that's too scary. And
Well, I
we
think it's
can't,
easier for the adults.
You're right. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, because, they provoke discussions that maybe we are not ready to have. But children get it. Children, the world is a scary place. And that is reflected back in fairy tales. They're not watering them down, the stories. Although,
Yeah.
the Grimm stories, and I wrote this, this is in my Encyclopedia of Witchcraft, and the details are more maybe precise in the book because I check them. But there were numerous editions of Grimm's fairy tales, and with each edition, they softened and sort of whitewashed the stories. In the original version of Hansel and Gretel and like Snow White, they're not stepmothers. It's the mother who does that. And I think
I did not know that.
no. It's often the mother who does it. The stories become a little bit gentler and maybe less troubling for the adults, if not for the children. Yeah, I think children know that you're lucky if you have good parents.
Yeah. There's just something innate about archetypal stories that really seem to resonate. And it's a shame that we seem to be like kind of washing them away a little bit. So anyway,
Yeah.
I digress into something that I find quite interesting, which is
I
like
do too,
fairy
though.
tales and
We could
stories. Yeah,
digress.
fairy tales and stories and children, and like how we like manage our culture and how we by trying to keep everybody safe and everybody the same, and we're just missing so much of the human experience that causing our kids
Well, I
some
think
problems.
that is it is one of, and I mean, these are all things I write about. This is, if you're prolific, you find you're talking about what you've written about. But I think one of the original incentives for witchcraft and spellcasting is we're not all born the same. Some people, it's like, did you get a good hand of cards? Not everybody does, but you want to win anyway. Some people are born with good parents. Some people are not. Some people don't have parents. Some people have bad parents. Some people, find themselves at the mercy of others. Some people are born with all their limbs, and some people are not. Some people have money, are born with, born into prosperity, and some people are not. And spellcasting is the way to even that playing field, to what am I lacking? And I cannot obtain through conventional sources, because money and brute strength are easier than witchcraft. So if you have them, you can use those things. If you have billions of dollars, you can make things happen for yourself. But if you don't have either, you can learn to cast a magic spell.
Tell us more.
How? Well, I mean, it's a process. I think a lot of it is boiling down the essence of what you really want, because often we think we want things that we don't really want. And
That
how
is
many
true.
of us, we want things because we're told we should want them. We want things because they will make other people happy. We're told things because we're indoctrinated into this is what you should want. But then there's that little voice inside that is like, liken it to driving with the parking brake on. You just, there's that resistance. that inner resistance. And how many of us, you have gotten what you think you want and you're still not happy.
Well, you mentioned there about billionaires, and I thought, well, apparently most billionaires are not actually that happy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you have from my side, so I find my way into magic through shamanism, through core shamanism, and we all find our own ways, right? We've all
Right.
got, there's a million
All the
paths to
paths.
heaven, and we just find a way that works. So that's the way that I find. But I find my way to like Scottish folk magic and different like traditions and spells from the lands that I am from and the places that I live. And I find my way to things like the three cauldrons. So the three cauldrons, so I think this is like maybe kind of what you're talking about a little bit. So the three cauldrons is like a framework where you figure out what's going on in your psyche, what's going on in your relationship with yourself, what's going on with your relationship with the outside world, what are your masks, how your behaviors affect who you are and in your life. And then once you kind of align those two lower cauldrons, your upper cauldron, which is the place of magic, connection, spirituality, how that naturally then aligns and becomes more powerful. So it sounds like a similar thing that you're talking about, where it's like spellcasting, as you call it, or shamanism, and connecting with spirit through journey work and intention, the way I would describe it, really is intrinsically linked to our day-to-day life, who we are, what our values are, how we show up, how we choose
Sure,
to
of
be,
course.
how our perceptions are. Like, is that kind of what you're...
Yeah, I mean, if we're going to get more esoteric, magic spell, there is core belief. I don't even like the word belief, because belief, there's a desirous aspect to belief. We believe what we want to believe. What do you believe versus what you think versus what you know? I know I am sitting here speaking with you now. This is what I know. I, you know, so this theory is that there's a current of energy running through the universe, running through everything, including us, including human beings, animals, color, sounds, herbs, plants, you name it. If it is a natural thing, then there is that energy through it. And the best way for me to explain it is with there's an Egyptian creation myth, an ancient Egyptian creation myth, where upon the creator looks out upon the world, having created it, and realizes that everything is not good and everything will not continue to be good, and especially human beings are destined for heartbreak. And so the final act of creation is to create this energy, which is known as Heka, Hek, or at least that's how we pronounce it today. Who knows how they pronounced it 5,000 years ago, 8,000 years ago. But Heka, and it is this magical current of energy, and it was created to help us ward off those blows of destiny and heartache. It's there to be used for our benefit. It's a positive force, although angry people can use it in a negative way. That is a natural thing in the universe. That just exists. And I think you can test these things, that we've all walked into a room or walked into a place. It could be inside, outside, and we felt good. And it's inexplicable. We're standing here and why are we happy? And we've had the opposite. We've all walked into a room and all of a sudden our spirits, sink. Why am I here? And often if you move things around a little bit, sometimes if you can try to determine what it is that is making you unhappy, you can change that. Magical spells are a conscious attempt to use this energy. And there are different schools around the world. That the ancient Greeks believed that vowels conveyed this energy. And that's why Circe's Island, the name only has vowels in it, because it's a magical island of power. Certain numbers are believed to have. Every culture has a magical tradition, whether they're happy about it now or not, whether they, acknowledge it or not, they have one. All our ancestors have some kind of a magical tradition, a spiritual tradition. And so there are different ways because we use what we have. And I think that if you are living in a place now where you have access to a lot of things, we can get flower essences with plants that exist only in remote rainforests, but we can get them now. So sometimes I think this is both a blessing, but also we devalue. It just seems too easy to, you know, it's too accessible almost. But we have access to all these things, but not everybody does. And so especially, you know, I'm not even thinking about our ancestors from 200 years ago or 2,000 years ago. We have ancestors from 20,000 years ago. They certainly were not going to the supermarket. So, so all these different traditions have arisen. If you have stones, that's what you use. If you have seashells, that's what you use. But if you're some words have power. So the most stark spells, and I mean 5,000 spells, my encyclopedia, it has examples of all these things. People ask me sometimes, have you done all the spells? And it's like, God is forbid. There are spells in there for smallpox. No one should have to do those spells anymore. But there are different kinds of spells, and there are spells that you cast only with your mind, only with your words. And they're actually more difficult because you're shouldering the weight of all the spell. Because what you are doing, every spell has to have a goal. And so what is your goal? And the more precise it can be, the more likely your spell is to work. So peace in your office, peace in your family is a lot easier to accomplish than world peace or,
Mm.
Galactic peace or, it's just the more precise. Can you see it? Can you see what success looks like? And often that's just holding that vision because because we're on a path. And sometimes we need a detour. And that's what that spell, do you need that detour? Because maybe you are going on a path that is not where you want to go, or you're going on a path that's not beneficial for you or for others.
Mm-hmm. So, well, there's a lot in there. I wonder what direction can we go. What you're talking about, all spells having a goal, that's really interesting. So I think my language for that would be like every journey we take or every connection with spirit we make has an intention. And I have these like steps for intentions, right? And it sounds like the same thing. So this is one of the things I like to do is like map. I'm like, I think we all do the same thing, but we all have like
Right.
just a different map
And the
for it.
language, and sometimes the language is different.
Yeah, which is amazing, right? Because it means that so many more people can access the work because
Absolutely.
we all have a different way of like interacting with the divine or with
Right.
whatever
Right.
we want to call it, which is why that's an excellent segue actually into the gathering of the witches, because
Yes.
there are so many of us and we all come from like such a diverse background. I just think that events like that are quite important, and there are a lot of them around now, I would say that, and not all summits and gatherings are created equal, frankly. This
True.
one I really this one I really
love
enjoy.
this one. I've done this.
Tell me why.
I think I was at the first one, and I don't know if this is maybe the fourth. I have to tell you, I have lost count. But I really love the Gathering of the Witches. One, because they present such diverse speakers. And I like a virtual event, not necessarily for the presenters, because I admit I used to teach a lot on the witchcraft circuit in the US. And one of the nicest things is you get to meet your fellow presenters. And I wish we were sitting at a table together. This is very 21st century. We're across the miles, across the time zones. And there is something lovely about sitting there and actually getting to know people. But this is the 21st century. I have Aquarius rising, It's very Aquarian. You can tune in from anywhere. People come from all over the world, and we can speak with each other and communicate with each other. And if you can't make the event, or it's a whole weekend full of events, and maybe your life doesn't allow you to just plunk yourself in front of your laptop for 3 days without other responsibilities. It's archived for 6 months, and you can I always tell people, you don't have to take notes during my class. just listen, just be here. And then you can go back later and take notes if you want to, because you can watch it again. You can watch it again. I think this year there'll be an opportunity. There'll be coven rooms where we can
I
socialize,
know.
which I
I'm so
really like. I
excited about
signed
the
up.
coven rooms
Right.
because
Is
that's what
that
I really
great?
enjoy. I
Yeah.
don't like being separate from the people that I'm working with. I like the opportunity for them to like just be
Right.
there, and maybe they think of something later or they just want to have a wee chat. Like I'm so up for that. I really enjoy that
For
part.
people who don't know what the coven rooms are, this is an opportunity to come and, we're mingling. It's a little bit of a social room. You can mingle with your fellow attendees, with some of the speakers. It's exciting. Also, for us, I like to hear what people have to say. And people often have questions after
They do.
the class. They want to talk about things. They've had time to sort of mull it over, and they've come up with questions afterwards. So this gives us an opportunity for discussion. I like this. If it's no good for your time zone, you can tune in later. If the dog has to go for a walk, you can tune. Well, life happens. I have never, who knows, maybe I too will become a billionaire and have staff. But up until now, I have never had that. I always, I- I've always been the responsible one in my home. So if something needs doing, you have to do it. And so this way, if you want to lock yourself away after everyone else has gone to bed and watch it, then you can do it. And I think that's so special.
Mm,
Or
it is
if you
really
go
special.
also, just I've done so many events and afterwards someone was sick or someone had a problem and they couldn't come and they feel sad. This is like a backup for that. You don't have to miss out.
Exactly. And the thing that I really like about this is that not only can you watch the replays, but the quality of the
Yes.
teachers is. I mean, me and you are there, and also
Of course.
of course, but also my sister is on the roster. So Wendy doing our
Really?
plant spirit herbalism is my sister. Yeah, so Wendy's there as
Oh, I
well.
didn't
So shout
know.
out, yeah, shout out to Wendy.
That's
So
exciting.
it's really fun. Yeah, it's really exciting. It's really exciting. So we love it. Like when I don't know if Wendy did it last year, but it's definitely this year. And we have Heather Ash as well, who's a friend of mine. And obviously you and I know each other. And I spoke
Matt
to
Oren.
Laura.
I'm opening it.
Yeah,
I believe Matt Oren is closing it. I've known Matt for years. So there's
yeah. So there's a
there.
real connection between all the
Yeah,
presenters.
yeah.
It's just so nice. It's such a good vibe. And it's for people like you're saying, for people who struggle with in-person events, that's one of the reasons I work online a lot as well, because people really want to work with me, but I'm in Scotland. So unless you can fly to Scotland, let's do it, not everybody
I mean,
can, so let's do it online,
right after the lockdown, there were a lot of virtual classes. I took classes in London and Berlin, and I could never have gone there. Los Angeles. It, it opened it up to so many more people. And I do understand people who want that personal, but that's not always possible for a lot of people. That assumes you are living someplace where there is event space and they are going to bring, I don't have I used to teach a lot in Baltimore, but that's because my children had sort of business in Baltimore and I had to be there a couple times a year. So, since I was there, I, knew someone who owned a store. But it's not like I'm just driving around all the time and I end up in your town.
Mm,
I mean, somebody has to,
yeah,
unless you have a reason to be there, someone has to bring you. And these are all economic things too. And the money is bad out there right now for
I
everybody,
know.
I think.
For
So
everybody,
this
yeah,
is
it's really tight.
this is a full weekend of presentations that you can watch over and over again. It gives you the opportunity to meet other attendees. I don't know. I like it very much. I'm
Yeah,
great. I'm
I
very
enjoy it.
grateful to do it.
Yeah, me too. I really
Yeah.
enjoy it. And then just like one last thing that I do, one of the reasons I like doing this as opposed to others is because you do presentations, but I think most teachers, there's something experiential, like you're actually learning skills, like you're leaving with a bucket of skills that you wouldn't have had on
Right.
arrival,
Right.
which I think is important as well, right? Because like
When
that's what
I
we really
did
need
the
to be doing.
first, we did the first event It was something that was impressed on me. The first year they did Gathering of the Witches was they wanted it to be more than just someone speaking. Like, I can talk to you about various topics that interest me, and I can write a paper and read it to you, but unless you and I share the same interests, it may not have that sort of, the goal is to have people leave with something they can do, a skill they didn't have, an insight they didn't have. So I like that. There's a practical aspect to that I really like because people, I think that the magical arts have had a lot of bad press. I mean, I know this for millennia, millennia.
Yeah.
The first
I,
witch hunt, the first documented witch hunt is pagan Rome. So we're going back. I think people sort of dismiss it as sort of this airy, trivial, it's not real life, but in fact it is
yeah,
real
woo
life.
woo.
It is very real life. Yeah, woo woo, exactly. I said woo. Am I woo enough? But it is real life. It is my daily, everyday life, and it makes my life better.
Yeah, me too. I was reading this book. Where did I put it? I've lost it and I have tidied up. But what I have noticed, Judika, and I don't know if you've noticed, is that there's quite a lot of um, mainstream chat around certain things that surprise me. So, like, there's the Diary of a CEO. I don't know if you know it, but it's like a business podcast, basically. It's like one of the biggest in the world. And they recently had this neuroscientist on who was talking about how she talks to her husband after he died, and she talks about signs. And she's got this book called The Signs, which I'm looking for and I can't find because I was reading it. And I thought it's so interesting to see finally people just starting to talk about these things as a normal part of life
But
instead
it
of
is, it is,
yeah,
and there has always been this undercurrent, and people push it aside. Victoria Woodhull, who was the first woman in America to run for president, and she was a financial genius. She was a medium. She conducted seances. She openly. So this is always, there's I don't remember who said it. It's a saying that, millionaires don't consult astrologers, but billionaires do.
yeah,
It is a part of life. I believe, I don't know this, but I do believe this, that what we call witchcraft and shamanism, these are the earliest human practices, and they are our common human heritage, and they are at the root of who we are, and they are in our DNA. And to dismiss it and to not take it seriously and to sort of push it aside is almost like amputating a part of ourselves, and it's not healthy.
no. And I think it really, the difference that I see in people who finally, and myself included, finally find their way back to a spiritual way of life that doesn't involve a big scary sky daddy telling you what to do. Like a rooted, genuine, loving, connected way to interact with something larger than ourselves. And I do know some beautiful, I jest about the sky daddy. I do know some beautiful Christians who do wonderful work in the world. Like, that goes
I think
that,
those things, I think that those aspects were imposed by authorities. I don't think that was the original intent
I agree.
of the initial. I think once people perceive power, somebody sort of swoops in and exploits that situation. And I'm not telling people not to be skeptics. I could be skeptical too, because, when I say Victoria Woodhull was a medium and people are thinking, aha, all the phony mediums. Well, they're not phony mediums. They're con artists pretending to be mediums. They're emulating
That's
something.
important, actually. I hadn't really thought about it like that.
Well, they're
That's a good
emulating
distinction.
something. Well, because every once in a while we have a scandal, I'm sure other people do also, where we discover that some pharmacist was actually not fulfilling prescriptions accurately. They were putting less of the active ingredient in to save money they were making money for themselves. And this is disastrous. These are, important medications, cancer medications. Every couple of years we have, but people don't go, aha, a phony pharmacist. All the pharmacists are con artists. They're not. But you will find con artists among con artists look for ways to con people, and they look for
I love that.
vulnerabilities. And so you do have to, be aware of where the cons are. You can ask for a recommendation. You can ask for a referral. The way if you ask for a plumber, you know, you would wanna find a plumber well, because they're performing a service. I'm a card reader, and I perceive myself as someone who performs a service.
Yeah, same.
And so I'm not insulted if people want a resume from me, how do we know you are really real? Because you wouldn't stand outside your house and just scream out, "My pipes are breaking. Can some plumber come and fix them?" Because you don't know who's going to walk through your door. It's the
Yeah.
same thing.
And I guess the other side of that then, it would be also like who walks so this is one of the things I wanted to get onto and talked about is like spiritual safety, because I wanted to get your perspective on it. So you're like, you wouldn't just call out and be like plumber, or you would like ask and you would like build relationships, or you would get like recommendations. So when we're working with like deities or spirits, like what's your like take on that? How do you like, well,
Well, you
obviously you
should read
can't
my
ask for a resume.
well, I do actually discuss this in my book, Encyclopedia of Spirits, because I think it is one of the dangers, the stereotype of the Ouija board, the spirit board is, you have these kids. Is anybody here? Well, I mean, that's not, I mean, but it's the same thing. Do you open all your doors and just say, is anybody, I mean, I'm from New York City. You can't keep your doors open. I mean, I know somebody, I mean, this is many, many years ago, a relative, she was coming home from the supermarket. She lived in a 16-story apartment building, and some guy like pushed her into the apartment and robbed her. He was following her. So, she didn't even have to invite him. He made himself, he let himself
Yeah.
in. But it is something I talk about in detail in Encyclopedia of Spirits. I always recommend working with named spirits. You should ask for who you know, and you should familiarize yourself with them. Spirits who have been around for a long time, in the same way that you know how your sister or your best friend, you know how they behave. Like, if we've all, gotten a text that doesn't sound like the person it's supposed to be from. And we want that kind of familiarity. I wouldn't just shout out at anybody there, "Oh, I'm so lonely. Come and keep me company." That's because who is hanging around with nothing else to do but bother you? So ask for someone you know. I do a lot of ancestor work, and then you don't necessarily have to know their names, but ancestors are invested in you. There are no ancestors without descendants. That
Hmm.
your well-being is integral to their survival. So, I think ancestors are very good to work with. I work with a lot of spirits. It is one of the predominant things that I do, but I know who they are. I ask for someone I know who they are. I like to me, the research, I mean, why do I write the encyclopedias? That is a spiritual art to me. It's like spiritual archaeology. You go digging and you follow a trail and you see where it leads you. And there's that Rumi saying, "That which you are seeking is causing you to seek." And I love that. I
Hmm.
love that. And, when you have these spiritual experiences where you actually do have contact, it's the most profound, thrilling experience in the world.
Mm.
There's nothing comparable to that.
Yeah.
So that I mean, I would be careful. I don't you know, I know that there are a lot of rituals. Well, I'm gonna cast a circle and I'm gonna do this, but, eventually you're gonna have to come out of the circle. And there are and that's not me being cynical. There are stories of medieval grimoires, and I don't like the grimoire, the old grimoire approach of commanding spirits and denigrating spirits, and I'm going to capture a spirit and make it do something for me. I don't like that. I like loving. relationships. And I do write about this. I mean, it's a complex topic, and we could spend a whole weekend just talking about this. But I don't. But there are all these. You are trying to command something that can do more than you can do, and so
It's
there are
like you're
these
trying to
stories.
command God.
Right, right, right. So, there are all these stories about, eventually the magician stepped out of the circle, or the circle was somehow broken, and you know, whatever that spirit was just came down on them. And I don't want that.
Yeah. No. There's definitely something to be said for like reciprocity, being in right relationship, building relationship. I would call like the spirits I work with my spiritual team or the
Yes.
guides. Some of them are
Yeah.
ancestors and
The
some of them are
allies. Yeah.
the
Yeah.
allies. Yeah, yeah, my allies. Yeah, for
Yeah. My
sure.
team.
And I don't work with anybody that isn't part of my spiritual team. And then if anyone else comes forward who wants to communicate with me, then they do it through one of those guides. And that's the way I do it.
I mean, I am also a bit of an existentialist. You have to take responsibility for yourself. And so, you
Yeah.
know, if someone tells you to jump off a bridge, would you do it? I mean, and this is so, I mean, spirits who tell you to do harmful and negative things, they are not your friends, and you are responsible for your actions. And I think it is a very important to know that you can say no. That's a big magical word, no, because people often have very extremes. These things don't exist. Therefore, either you're crazy or you're deluded or something, or my goddess, this is so sacred. I have to do everything it says, and that will just lead you into trouble. And even if it isn't authentic and real, you know, even your ancestors, they are doing the best for you from their perspective. And you have ancestors who are maybe coming from a world centuries ago, and they may be telling you something very sincerely, but it might not be good for you now.
Mm.
So you don't you should always be polite and respectful, but you don't have to be that obedient.
Yeah. And I
I
think
think that
that's a big
that's
thing
the
that
thing with
people miss.
witchcraft. That I think is the real crux of witchcraft and why it gets such negative propaganda. We don't have to be obedient. You have to think and
Do you
see
feel
and
like
do
that's
what's
like
right.
do you feel like that's like a throwover from Christianity where like you have to be obedient to
No, I think
no.
it predates that. I think it predates that. I think as soon as you have a less egalitarian situation, I say pagan Rome because people thinks it starts with Christianity, but Christianity inherited a lot of that from pagan Rome. Pagan Rome was
Okay.
a military Rome after the Caesars, after the kings, starting with, it becomes a very military society. Women have no rights and people have to behave. Women have to behave. So, the first witch trials are against the Maenads. And there are historians who believe that European witchcraft descends from Maenads who escaped Rome and, went into the forests. They headed north and they headed west. And
Mm.
that is the roots of modern witchcraft. I mean, I don't know if that's true or not, but that's a theory. So I think any society where once you have supreme rulers, you have to do what they want. And it becomes very difficult to be a shaman or a seer because you have a ruler who depends on you for, good, accurate information so they can make the proper decisions. But also you can't tell them anything they don't want to hear.
Mm.
And or they will kill you badly. And so that becomes a very dangerous thing. I mean, Christianity makes it worse, but they inherited it too. I
Interesting.
think a lot of things
And
go
then
back to Rome, and of course the goddess
yeah.
Diana, who was originally the their supreme goddess. And then as they became more structured and organized and militaristic, she gets demoted and Juno becomes the supreme goddess. You can watch this how, as the pantheons change, because Diana becomes a goddess of wildness and women and slaves and, the disenfranchised. She's a disreputable goddess.
We like those.
But she wasn't always, This is a society changes. They looked at her differently. She's a
Mhm.
free woman.
Yeah. 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 Oh, so many questions or so many like thoughts that could come from that. What direction will we go in? How do you So there's a lot that you were talking about there to do with like the denigration of women, and obviously witches were very often women. And how do you feel? I always like to try and talk about how we feel things are changing for the better, because it can be a bit much. 'Cause we all know how
Oh, I
things have
think
been for
things have
women, but how do
changed.
you think,
I think things have
how's it
changed. Look,
going, do you think?
it is changed for the better because look, you and I are sitting here talking about this. We could not have done that 100 years ago, maybe not even 50 years ago. And I don't mean because of the technology.
No,
I mean
yeah, the
because of
culture,
the
exactly.
public aspect. You and I can sit here and discuss this. Um, you and I can publish books about witchcraft. I write practical books teaching people how to cast spells, how to work with spirits, how to do these things. And I'm bad with numbers, so it's not until the early 1950s in the UK that the last witchcraft laws are repealed. Gerald
Yeah, yeah,
Gardner, Dion Fortune, they were writing novels and insinuating their material into the novels because they could not write a practical how-to book that presented witchcraft in a positive way. And so this is much better. We don't have to worry. No one is knocking on our door to arrest us, you and me. Maybe someplace
yeah,
else. But,
yeah.
we're going to be positive, so we're not going to say that there are places in the
Well,
world
there
where
are
that is not
places in the
true.
world, yeah, that
But
is
for
true.
right now, for you and me, we can have this conversation and go about our lives, and we don't expect anybody to knock on our door and arrest us for saying nice things about witches.
Yeah, which
So
is very
100%
magical.
better.
Yeah,
100%
it
better.
is. It really is.
We have come out of the closet. We have come out
We
of the
have.
shadows. I
Do you think that there's like, so one of the things I've found for myself working in shamanism, core shamanism specifically, and then moving on to Celtic spirituality and folk magic based in Scotland mostly, what I found is that I found some pockets of like really grounded, sensible people who
Yeah,
I trust.
yeah.
And then I also find lots of pockets of crazy. So
But you'll
I'm
find
like,
that everywhere.
what would you, but what I like to talk about on my podcast sometimes is like, how do we as magical practitioners support people to bring magic into day-to-day life, and not to like use it to escape our lives, and not to use it to like avoid life. We are people, we're souls in a body, we're here doing work. So how do we like make magic part of our everyday life in an easier way perhaps than some people, like, because we don't have elders, we don't have people to ask. So what would you say to people?
No, and maybe a lot of our elders came from times where they could not be as open as we are. So there's another side to that. Even y- there are some elders out there, but sometimes you have to go looking for them because they come from a time when you could not just, hang a shingle out, witch, consult me. How do you do it? I think you just have to do it. It is, you have to immerse yourself. I would encourage people to read everything they can get their hands on. Don't just read what reflects what you already believe back at you. Read things that annoy you and then ask yourself why they annoy you. What is it that annoys you about it? Because it will help you find your path. Take as many classes as you can. If you have a local witch shop, support them. Go in there. I mean, I learned a lot as a teen. But I'm from the New York City area, New York City and the area. And at that time, as I was saying, real estate is not what it is now. There were botanicas in every corner in Upper Manhattan. I used to just go and hang out and absorb, and I learned so much from very unassuming people, just the people who are living their magic every day. Everything you do, there are different ways of doing it, and there's no wrong here. It is what makes your life better, depending on what your life. So, I don't like to criticize anybody because there are people, and maybe we have all had a period in our life where you celebrate a Sabbath. Samhain is coming. That's the big one. And maybe you spend your whole year looking forward to that, or you do the full moons and you have your ritual and you are having your magical moment in maybe an otherwise not too magical life. And if that is what works for you, that's your life. We're all different. But you can also start to bring that magic into everything you do. When you are cooking, which way are you turning your spoon? Which way, what are you cooking? What is in the pot? What are the magical properties? Just sort of open your eyes and your ears and your senses. And if that might be something you're doing already, and some people have families like that, or it might be something where you're starting little by little, but it will benefit you. It will, even if you are not casting spells, just living magically, in my experience, will improve your life. You will become empowered. You will be able to hear the undertones in people's voices. Do they really want the best for you? And often people who love you, then they sincerely love you, but that love is somewhat conditional. They love you and they want you to be like this kind of, they don't want you to change for whatever. And it might not be for malicious reasons. You know, people, people have their own baggage, and, so it will help you untangle the nets around you. It will help you be independent. It will help you understand yourself better. But it's just ask yourself a lot of questions. Why I'm in a room, why are the colors this color? Do they make me happy? What does it, what does that mean for me? What am I wearing? I mean, you'll see I almost always, when I'm speaking, have a lot of blue around my throat. I have no air in my chart, and I compensate for that. And blue stones for people, they are for the throat chakra. So, but that's for me. What's for you? So, I would recommend that everyone get their, I'm going to give you a preview of my class. Everyone should, you can do a free chart for yourself, even if you don't know anything about astrology. Break your chart down into the elements. Do you have a lot of water? Do you not have any earth? What does that mean for you? And just think. Witchcraft is, despite all the stuff about woo, witchcraft, shamanism, it's for smart people. You don't have to be an educated person. That's a different thing. You don't have to have a PhD, but it will make you smarter and you will grow from there. And so I think that these magical arts have persisted, and they've persisted for a reason, and it is beneficial for us to be living a magical life in whatever way is best and possible for the individual.
But yeah, couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. You mentioned Samhain. It's coming. It's on its
Coming.
way. It's coming. The energy is
There
coming.
it is.
And what,
Yeah. Can't you feel it? Even
I
it's
love
not
it.
it's not quite October, but I can feel it.
No, I'm like, what's really cool about some of the my new books coming out actually in January, and that's the Celtic Wheel of the Year. So
I
in
love
that
Willis
book,
of the Year.
me too. But in that book, I do a lot of talking about like what's ancient, what we know is ancient, what we know is medieval, what we know is more modern. Because
Right.
there've been additions
Of
and stuff. And
course.
people get really, one of the things that I talk about online a lot is like the other day we had Mabon, which is not called Mabon. It's like the autumn equinox. The Mabon is a Welsh god who has nothing to do with the equinox and was added. But lots of people love it, which is great. But what I've found is that people who love it also appreciate knowing its roots. So that's what the book's about. It's not about it's like here are the things,
No, right.
here's the rhythm,
Right.
here's the evolution, this is what it looks like, and how do you then add what you love to this wheel? Anyway, my point is, sorry, I'm going off topic. My point is that in ancient Samhain in Scotland was predominantly concerned with protection. That was the main thing. They were like protection from the supernatural, protection. And I've noticed that your new Oracle deck is called Protection Spells. So I thought maybe that would be a good segue into talking about it. Now, I know that you very kindly sent me one, but it hasn't arrived yet. So you're going to do the
Well, there are two
show
of
and
them.
tell.
I am going to do the show and tell. This is the
Yeah,
protection spells deck. And
I love it.
this one came out in June, and I inadvertently, as I was saying to you, I woke up one morning and discovered I was a deck creator. I believe this is the one that's on its way to you, the Magic Spells
Oh, that's the one.
Oracle.
That's right.
Yeah, well, this will be out in October, so it's on the threshold of being published. But I can talk about either of them. Protection spells
Let's do
is
both because I
let's
love
do
Oracle
both.
decks. Yeah.
Protection spells is a little mini deck. As you can see, it's tiny. There's no book, 36 cards. They talked me into doing it with the snakes and the moons because I love snakes and moons. So you have 36 cards, all with the different backs, and on the front they have spells. And one of the things I like about oracle decks is that I have no air signs, but I have a lot of water signs, and I'm a very fluid person, and I don't like to follow rules. And I cast spells with tarot cards. So, but people are often this is what you do with a tarot card, and this is what you do with a Lenormand card. But oracle decks could be anything. So I like that. We don't have to pretend. I know you can pull a card for yourself in moments of anxiety. You can give it to someone who maybe needs some protection, magical protection. And I always emphasize magical protection is not the same as hiring an armed guard. It is not the same as putting an alarm in your home. It is spiritual protection. It is magical protection. It can help reinforce all those things. But if you genuinely need a bodyguard, you need a bodyguard. A little deck of cards is not a replacement for that, but it can help you learn how to protect yourself, learn how to align yourself with the universe. It's original material, and cards, are like books that are not bound. And one of the things you can do with this is teach yourself protection magic. And so it is a nice basic deck. It is, I'm not going to say it's not esoteric because magic by definition is esoteric, but I tried to keep it accessible. It is very reasonably priced. And so I tried to keep the spells also things that are reasonably priced, things that are accessible for someone who maybe doesn't have a fortune to spend on spells. But, because I'm old and everything, I remember what things used to cost decades ago. It's shocking what things cost now. Magic Spells Oracle is a more traditional oracle. This is it hasn't even come out yet. I'm giving you like a preview here. When you open it, there are ravens everywhere. And there is
Raven's
a
my
book in
bird.
this one. There's a traditional book. It's a bit bigger than
Nice.
some, like a little white book, and it goes through all the cards. You can pick a card a day. This one, it is original material, but it is derived from 5,000 spells. I worked with the team, HarperCollins UK, who were the ones who first published 5,000 spells, and we have 36 cards divided into 30, maybe it's more than that. I don't even remember. I told you I wasn't good with numbers. They're divided into 4 elements, like the astrological signs, earth and air and fire and water. So here we have a lamp. That's a fire card. Here we've got the
How
evil
do you choose the
eye.
art for these? How do you choose the art? Do
I
you do it or?
No, well, a little. I didn't choose the art, but I had veto rights. I worked on both decks with Catherine Skye Peck, who is the creative director of Wiser Books and who is just brilliant. And she's an artist, and she's the one who is, supervises all the cover art for Wiser Books. And I love working with her, and we've become friends over the years. We worked on the Wiser Tarot together. I worked on the book, and she supervised the art. So we're partners in crime, I would say. I could say we're a good team, but we are partners in crime. And so this one, you can pull a card a day for yourself. You can see how your day is going. You can teach yourself about elemental magic with this deck. There are also spreads that you can do. I think you can use these decks to help make your life more magical. Protection spells is very targeted. It's on a specific topic. But I mean, who doesn't need protection? Everybody could use a little protection.
Yeah.
People ask me, like, when I teach, I do teach spellcasting classes. Where do you start? And easy places to start: cleansing spells and money spells. Cleansing spells because you have to, because a lot of spells when you cast them, you don't know right away if they worked. But cleansing spells, a cleansing ritual, you should feel cleansed when it's done. So you should feel it. You should have that sort of immediate impact. And I know people get uncomfortable with money, but the thing with money spells is you can tell whether it worked. I don't mean a prosperity spell, like a genuine prosperity, which is just having a prosperous way of life. But sometimes you need $100. Sometimes you need to make the rent. And you can give yourself goals. Let's see if I can come up with $36. And somebody needs that money. You can give it to your dog shelter, give it to a charity, give it to someone who there are so many people. If you are uncomfortable magicking up money for yourself, there are so many good causes you could give it
Hmm.
to. So, but you can see, can you do it? Can you do it? And that is a good way to learn. But protection spells also, because everybody could use a little more spiritual protection. That's not that's not a,
It's just good hygiene.
yeah, very much. Like, does everybody need a low spell? Probably not. That's a headache for some people. Does everyone need like healing spells? Well, maybe you don't have anything that needs to be healed. But protection, you will know if anyone has not read the novel The Conjure Wife. It is the novel that is the basis of the movie Burn Witch Burn, which is the name of another novel. But they appropriated the name of one for the movie.
Oh,
But
okay.
it is in that book. You will see what happens when the protection spells are ceased.
I'm going to write that one down.
It's an
That
old novel.
sounds very interesting. Yeah, I'm quite a reader, so I'm always looking for new things to read. So
It's an old
that's
pulp
quite.
novel.
Oh, okay. Right. Well, I'm looking forward to having a read of that. What else did I want to ask? I want to make sure that I'm not like missing any of my questions here. So, what when you hold a class, do you like, when you're like teaching, do you like hold an intention for the class, or do you just like show up and people
I
get what they
hold an
get?
intention for myself.
Oh,
I hold an intention for myself to be articulate and helpful and to provide the information that people desire or need. That is and to be patient, and because sometimes when we are looking at the clock, or we have all kinds of concerns, sometimes you don't catch the quiet person who is trying to ask a question without really asking the question. So I do hold that intention for myself. Everybody comes with their own needs, and I try to do my best to fulfill them if they're for good,
yeah. Yeah. As long as they're not like, sometimes I find when I hold classes, or there's the whole like, we talked about this in my last interview actually with Laura as well, that like we're talking about like the pedestal problem, because I don't want to be on a pedestal because it's quite a far way to fall, frankly. So there's almost like I'll often work with the intention that I'm exactly what you've said. I'm there to support and allow what needs to come through, but also to connect as a circle, really, and not as a pyramid. And to support people to take responsibility for themselves and for the place that they hold and the power that they hold. I'm always like, find myself pushing it back. I'm like, no, that's not mine. That's yours. You do that. That's how you are. That's what you can do.
I learn a lot. Every time I teach a class, I learn a lot from someone.
Yeah,
You know,
same.
so it is a reciprocal. And I feel that there is a spiritual aspect to it, depending on what I'm teaching. I am working on behalf someone, some being, some force, some energy. So I try to keep that perspective.
Yeah. Is there anything that you like go with when you're like holding space? Or are you just at the stage now where you're like, this is good. I'm fine.
I look back sometimes and I have to pinch myself. I mean, in my heart, I'm still a 15-year-old, but I mean, my joints tell me otherwise. I mean, we all have our journeys and our paths, and English is not my first language. It took me a long time to learn to speak it well. It was a lot of work, a lot of time, and until I was in my 30s, it was very hard for me to speak with someone I didn't already know. This conversation would have been very difficult, if not impossible for me. I mean, I was a
Well, my
disc
accent
jockey.
as well.
No, no, no. That's it. That's not I grew up with
Is
people
that
with
a?
English and broken,
Oh,
I
that's fine.
mean,
That's fine.
accents, so that's not I mean, if you have a good ear, occasionally people will hear the undertones of mine, you know, underneath
Yeah,
all.
because I can hear the undertones of New York, but I can hear the undertones of other things as well, and it's quite
Yeah.
interesting. Do you think in English now? Do you think in
Yes.
English now? Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes, although it's an interesting thing because I think in English, and I also don't think in English, because a lot of when people speak to you and when they're speaking to you in your native language, you just understand it. You don't have to think about it. And I am relearning Hungarian now. And it's so interesting because although a lot of it is repressed and it's coming out, when I understand it, I don't think about it. I just, if you say something to me in Hungarian, I just do it. As opposed to, my college freshman roommate spoke Spanish with her mother, and you know, I studied French, so I would take her Spanish, translate it into French in my head, translate it into English. I knew exactly what she was saying about me, although she thought she was, being secret.
That's
But
fascinating. So your first language was Hungarian,
yeah.
and then you forgot it. Is what you're saying because you're
No,
saying you had
not
to
forgot
relearn
it.
it.
I not forgot it. I went to school at age 5. I spoke very poor English, and children are not kind. And I came home from school at 5 years old, and I told my parents and my adult sister that if they wanted me to respond to them, they were gonna have to speak to me in English, or I wasn't going to, you know? My little stubborn Scorpio moon was, "Speak to me in English or we're not speaking." And I basically refused to speak anything but English. So it is not that I forgot it. It's that I mean, it's in my brain somewhere. And I know
You're
because
reminding your front brain about it.
not to give Duolingo an ad, but I'm doing Duolingo, and I mean,
Uh, so
it's
is it just
interesting.
like remembering? You're like, oh yeah, you're
It
remembering.
is it's not even remembering, it's like tapping into oil or water. Like you're looking for a well and you don't know where it is, but when you hit it, it just comes flowing out. It's there, you know? It's not a forgotten thing. It's like the thing that you have shoved to the back of your mind and you have just moved on. And it's there, you're just not using it. So
Mm.
it I do react the same way I react in English. Like if you say to me, "Stand up," I don't have to think about that. I'm just gonna do it. Like, I mean, the way, I've had dogs, like you say, "Sit," that dog just sits. I mean, a well-trained dog
Hmm.
just,
Well,
it
well-trained
just
dog.
does a well-trained dog. Yeah, well, I mean, my dog would sit and then stand right up again. Stay was difficult. It's there, and I think that's true with a lot of witchcraft practice and a lot of ancestral practices. I think a lot of that is stored in our bones. It's
Hmm.
stuff that we're carrying it with us, and we may not even know it's there anymore. But when you it's like you tap into it, it's just gonna come flowing out.
So many people describe it like that. That's such a good way
Yeah.
to, yeah, remind
We
people that it's all there. It's all in your
We're not
bones.
learning, it's not like we're going to another planet and we have to learn something that is totally new. Or, you want to learn a language that is completely different. Like as I said, I can translate Spanish into French into English. But what if you're learning Basque, something that is not related to anything else, or to learn something that is using a different alphabet, or that then you have to then it becomes a thought process. But a lot of things are in our bones, and we will just react to them, and we will just when you hit the spot, you're gonna be able to do it.
Yeah. Love it. I love it. Yeah. I'm really excited about our Gathering of the Witches in a few weeks. I think it's
Yeah,
going to be amazing.
no.
And just to let people know, you are doing your earth, air, fire, water work, the elements work.
I'm
That's a
opening.
new.
I'm opening the event, Friday, and I am doing a workshop on e elemental magic, but it's not a beginners I mean, it is a beginners, you don't have to have any knowledge to take the class, you can just come to the class, you don't need to know anything, because no, it's accessible to everyone, but it's not just, "Well, this is fire and this is water." It is a little bit of a reflection of my journey in creating these cards because I had a conversation with someone yesterday who was saying that her pathway into the magical arts was through elemental magic. It wasn't for me. It was something I was aware of and I knew, but it wasn't my opening. But I was not the one who said, let's do a deck based on the elements. My team, my wonderful team at HarperCollins, my editor, Caitlin Doyle, who is just, wonderful, suggested that we do it this way. And I like collaboration. And it really made me have to think because it's not easy to divide things into elements beyond the obvious. Oh, there's fire. Oh, there's water. But, even in water, there are plants inside most living water. There's all sorts of stuff. What does it mean to have, lead in our now we have a metal, an earth in our water supply. What do all these things mean? And so and what does it mean on a personal level? Because my personal elemental makeup has been a large part of my life. What I was born with no air in my chart, which I will explain during the class.
Mm-hmm.
But, what I was describing, speech, communication has been an issue for me my whole life. So it is a reflection of that. And if you look at the elements in any individual's life, I think you'll get a lot of insight to who you are, how you came here, how are you wired, and how do you balance that in order to achieve the life that you would like to lead.
And isn't that what it's all about?
Rhonda, what are you
What is
teaching?
the life?
Yes.
Oh, I'm teaching, what am I teaching? I'm doing I'll teach that many things. The Morrigan at Samhain. So we're doing some information about Samhain. We're going to meet the Morrigan. We're going to do some deep work there,
I'm looking forward
kind of
to that.
uncovering the hidden parts that might be ready to reappear.
I was,
So that's what
people
we're
might
doing.
not know this, but in addition to just, see, I can't talk. In addition to being an author, I'm an editor. I edited Courtney Weber's book on the Morrigan.
Cool.
Yeah, yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
Yeah. The Morrigan's like quite powerful. She's like, doesn't come often, but for me, but when she does, it's like, okay,
But I
okay.
look forward to that.
Yeah, I know it's good. It's great, and they get it's always really the witches, because it's like a different set of people who come to that than I normally work with. It's a really
Sure.
different energy, and I really
Right.
enjoy it. I really enjoy the energy that people bring, so I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going
Yeah.
to be great.
And it's always nice to have a different group of people, not always the same. I mean, there's
Yeah,
pros and cons. It's nice to go to a class where you have the same group of people because you progress together in a way and you get to know each other. But also it's nice to have the fresh minds and the fresh voices, fresh eyes.
yeah, for sure,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, thank you, Judika. This has
Thank you,
been a
Rhonda.
real pleasure. I hope you've enjoyed our chat. I've
I
really enjoyed it.
have.
I've learned some stuff.
Likewise. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me, and I look forward to seeing you, talk about the Morgan.
Yeah, and likewise, I'll be diving into the elements, although I'll be on replay because I will be in my bed when you do it, which is the joy of having replays. You can just
Right.
watch them the next day.
Right. Right. Right.
All right, everybody. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks to Judika. You can find Judika. Tell us where we can find you, Judika, on
Oh my god, my
Instagram.
poor damaged website, but you can find me on Instagram, You can
Yeah, you
find
do
me
have.
on Facebook. You can find me, I still call it Twitter. I'm on LinkedIn.
Oh,
You
I'm not
can
even on
find me.
LinkedIn. Amazing.
Oh,
Oh,
well,
well,
come and play with me.
I was on
I
LinkedIn
don't
when
know
I
what
was
I'm
an
doing
accountant,
there.
but
I honestly I don't really know what I'm doing there, but I found myself there. So here.
well, what I'll do is I'll put
yeah.
all your links. I'll grab your links off you. We'll put them all in the show notes. So if you want to find Judika, you can. But actually, just Google her name and she'll come up. Frankly, because just that famous. All right. Thanks, everybody. It's been a
Thank
real
you,
pleasure.
Rhonda.
Thanks for listening, and we'll speak to you soon. Bye, everybody.